This is Scott Spears, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Scott Spears Now, kind of connected to an episode of The Exchange, because we're going to be joined by Glenn Coble and Matt Morgan as we go along this week. And it's always a pleasure to be joined by the 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow. With so much going on in the world right now, you say that every week, but even this week in Ohio and locally, because, Mary Ellen, there was a protest rally. We're going to hear from Glenn. I was covering it. Glenn was there leading one of the protests this past Saturday in Marion, and they drew about 200 people at City Hall and the courthouse combined. Signs, chants. What do you think this means? Millions of people across the country and even in other countries Saturday protested. What do you make of this?
Well, it means people are upset, very upset. You wouldn't have crowds like that if they weren't.
He was doing one of the chants. Our cameraman was doing one. Yeah, one of the chants. We'll fill you. Here you go. One of the chants down there was, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, Elon Musk has got to go."
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, they liked that one.
Yeah. There were some cute ones, I thought. Yeah.
They did. And got a lot of attention across the country.
Yeah.
And is it a sign of things to come?
Well, it shows that people are really paying attention to what's happening, and that's very good.
A 200-person turnout in Marion, I thought, on a Saturday. It didn't end up raining, thank goodness, but that's pretty good.
Yes, yeah.
And you had some family members down there.
Yes, I did.
So people turned out?
They wanted me to go, but I resisted.
There's always time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be more. I'm sure there will be more as time goes on. So that was big news. But I want to turn to Ohio here before we get to national politics. And I'm going to read this story just as it is because, honestly, I don't want to misquote anybody in this one. U.S. Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican from Ohio, called the Senate's top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish U.S. elected official, Führer, a reference to the title used by Adolf Hitler. Moreno who was elected in November, made the comment to reporters outside the Senate chamber as members of his caucus struggled to agree on a path forward to try to pass President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut agenda. Here was what he said to reporters. Here's the main thing you've got to understand. Republicans are independently minded. Democrats are monolithic sheep that follow the Führer Schumer's orders, Moreno said. The German word Führer is a political title meaning leader that is most associated with Hitler, who led the country into World War II and was responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews. Schumer has just written a book titled Anti-Semitism in America, A Warning. Asked about the comment, a Schumer spokesperson replied, "That's textbook anti-Semitism, so we won't even comment on it." Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, said in a statement to Reuters that there was no excuse for comparing a Jewish leader in the Senate to Adolf Hitler. Nazi analogies in politics, he added, only serve to trivialize the Holocaust and the memory of the 6 million Jews who perished during World War II. Moreover, describing a Jewish elected official this way is deeply despicable, Greenblatt said. Well, Mary Ellen, our new Republican senator, Bernie Moreno, calls Chuck Schumer Führer. Now, what do you make of that?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a surprise. I would not have expected that.
You know, you have memories of World War II. That, anything associated with Adolf Hitler
Yes.
is going to be rough.
Yes.
Do you think you should compare anybody to Adolf Hitler?
No, I don't think so. But no, that is a real surprise that he did that.
Well, and the thing, I mean, even if you don't like Chuck Schumer, which clearly he does not, or Democrats, why use that term? He could have used so many other things, but an Adolf Hitler, to the top-ranking Jewish official in government.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and Schumer just wrote this book. You saw him on the View promoting the book about anti-Semitism.
Right.
Well, here it is.
I have not read his book. I would like to read his book.
Well, what do you think should happen to Bernie Moreno because of this? Should he?
Well, I think that statement, it'll be reacted to.
Well, the Anti-Defamation League has said it's textbook anti-Semitism, and they called it deeply despicable.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he should stay in his position?
Well, I think he's going to have somebody run against him. I'm sure he will. And it could even be Sherrod Brown, you know. I would like to see Sherrod run against him. Yeah.
Well, what do you think it is about 2025 that people would feel confident to reporters? I mean, he made this comment to reporters. It wasn't heard on a microphone or on a camera, you know, like in somebody's office. Why on camera? What gives people the confidence to refer to people as Fuhrer?
Well, I think that shows what kind of a person he is, and I don't think much of that.
Yeah. You know, clearly, what Chuck Schumer is saying as a Jewish man is that there is anti-Semitism in this country, still is, and you know,
there is.
Here's an exclamation mark that a man in the U.S. Senate from Ohio would use a remark that clearly is anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it really surprises me.
So, I mean, there we are. I mean, there wasn't, and I don't think he's apologized for it yet. You think he'd get an apology?
Yeah.
So, that's Bernie Moreno at this point. Let's go over to what's been going on with the country right now. Tariffs. Now, we did just learn, we're taping this on Wednesday night, that there's going to be a pause in the tariffs. Apparently a 90-day pause on the tariffs because things were looking so bad. Now here's this story, and this just happened moments ago. President Donald Trump, now we're going to start with the stock market here. President Donald Trump touted market reaction to the announcement he'd pause most new tariffs for 90 days in a hot mic moment at the White House today, captured by the CNN pool. Trump was greeting lawmakers at a NASCAR event on the White House South Lawn when a Republican senator approached President Trump, telling him, "You got the markets seeing your brilliance." Trump said, "Yeah, that's up almost 7 percentage points, 2,500 points. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's going to be a record," Trump said in a reply. Of course. President Donald Trump said he's watching the volatility in the bond market in recent days and appeared to indicate that it was among the factors that led to his decision to institute a 90-day pause on some tariffs. "I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it. But if you look at it now, it's beautiful. The bond market right now is beautiful. But yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy," he said. The CEO, I believe, Trump also said he watched J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon on Fox Business Network this morning. The CEO made a statement to the effect that that something had to be done with the tariffs in trade. He understood it, Trump said. "It wasn't sustainable what was happening. Somebody had to pull the trigger. I was willing to pull the trigger." During that appearance, Dimon said that a recession was a likely outcome of the escalating trade war resulting from Trump's tariff policies. Now, to end this, what Trump said, was what was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was far the biggest abuser in history, and others also. But somebody had to do it. They had to stop it because it was not sustainable. So, essentially what's going on here, Mary Ellen, is Trump says he's got to put a 90-day pause on this. The stock market was dropping. We were headed toward a recession. So now we're in a 90-day pause. What do you make of this?
Well, not much. I never have liked the thought of what he's doing, and he was bragging on it, so I'm glad to see he's come to a halt.
It's very interesting because these tariffs were coming into effect and the stock market was just going down and down and down.
Yeah.
And people's retirement was being affected.
Right.
People's stocks were being affected. So he's finally stopped, but he was in the war with these people, no doubt about it.
Right, and he kept saying what he was going to do to China, and I don't know, is he holding off on China too, or is he still going to do that?
I don't think he's holding off on China, but China has said they're not backing off.
No.
China's going all in on this. As a matter of fact, China said Beijing will fight to the end.
Yeah, And they were going to come back really high, you know.
I think they came back, what, 84% today?
Yeah, so I don't remember exactly, but that sounds right. Yeah.
You know, an 84% tariff from China on our stuff, I believe he put a 104% tariff on their stuff. I mean, how is this going to... We get a lot of stuff from China.
Yes, practically everything.
Yeah.
Everything you look at's from China.
What do you make of tariffs in general? Some people use them, certainly not like this, but what do you make of them? Do they ever work?
Well, they didn't work back in 1930 with Hoover, and why would they work now? You know?
Well, that's what... Why is he doing this?
Yeah. He's doing it because he thinks it's the thing to do. I really think he does, and he won't listen to anybody.
You know, it's interesting because up until this morning, I mean, he did back off of it this afternoon, but up till this morning, he was saying, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm not coming off of it. Mm-hmm. Something turned his mind around. I think the economy was in maybe more severe shape than we'll ever know.
Yeah, maybe he looked at Rachel Maddow's show for a change.
something.
Yeah.
You know, and his advisors seem to be at odds over this, even Elon Musk.
Well, yes. Why wouldn't they be at odds? Because it's not working.
Well, people seem to feel that the trade advisor is a guy named Peter Navarro, and he seems to have Trump's ear, and he seems to be saying, this is what to do, this is what we need to do, and so a lot of this could be blamed, I guess, on Peter Navarro.
Yeah, he's in the 2025 book.
Yeah, and here he is.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that Trump does eventually have to back off of this stuff, you know he doesn't want to. Now he's taking credit for the stock market going up, which, I mean, I assume the pause on trade is why it's going up. But, you know, if he has to back off everything, how good of a presidency is that?
Yeah, he was backing off when he started. He would say, you know, we'll hold it till tomorrow or something. You know, he was not following through. Well, they're firing people and then they're hiring them back. You know, you can't do that. That's a mess.
Well, somebody said to me that his deal on tariffs is his plan. He doesn't actually want to do them. He wants to threaten people with them, and then they'll cave, and then we'll have a deal. But the problem is that people around the world are wise to him now after a term and realize he's not going to pay off on his threats. So they just call his bluff, and then he either has to go through with it, which is bad for our economy, or he's got to back off, which I guess he had to do both in this instance. He went through with it, then he had to back off. I mean, in 90 days, what are these countries going to do?
They're all mad at us now.
Even Canada.
Yes.
Canada has said that the new Canadian Prime Minister said the friendship with the United States is over.
Yeah. And isn't that nice?
Canada.
Think what he's done to us in 3 months.
Well, I mean, are they just going to let us back in the game when this is over? Or are they going to say,
I don't know. I don't know. You know, after World War II, when we did so much good over there where the war was, and everybody was very happy about us and everything, and we had all this goodwill coming our way, and we've worked hard for that all these years, and he's lost it in 3 months.
Yeah, well, and I wonder, will it come back when he's no longer there, or will it come back while he's there? It shocked me. I mean, China, I'm not sure you want to tick them off, but you know, when they said Beijing will fight to the end, I kind of thought, well, they probably will. But when Canada said the Prime Minister said the friendship with the United States is over.
And then Trump's talking about them being the 51st state, which is ridiculous. I mean, how else can you make everybody mad at you, you know?
Well, what is his game? Because, I mean, I don't think anybody wants everybody to be mad at you, so what is his goal?
I don't know.
That's what I can't figure out.
I don't know.
I mean, things he did during his first term, I could see why people didn't like him, but the economy was doing okay for a good portion of his first term.
Until COVID.
Until COVID.
Yeah.
But now,
Yeah.
it just seems like he's doing things that just plain tick people off.
Yeah, he's doing everything that he thought about during the 4 years he wasn't in office.
Well, a lot of people feel this is just retribution
Yeah.
on everything. I don't know. When we look at this in the grand scheme of things, what's going to happen in 90 days? Is he going to put the tariffs back? Are they going to come to the table and make a deal?
I don't know. I tell you, it's going to be interesting to watch. I think it's going to be very scary to watch.
How important is the stock market to us?
Well, it's very important because that's where our retirement is.
Yeah. And a lot of people's money is invested in the stock market.
Money, but I mean, our retirement's all invested in it.
And here we are, I guess in a 90-day pause. That'll help out the stock market. But do you think that's part of Trump's plan, that he crashes these things so horribly that when they come back up, I mean, it is sort of a record when they come back up, and he can take credit for that, which seems to be what he's doing here.
Yeah, I don't know what his plan is. I don't think he has one. He's just doing whatever he thinks of next, I think.
It is interesting that a lot of Republicans, for the first time, they're not necessarily speaking out against him, but they are Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, who seemed to be a big Trump supporter, came out and said, it's Trump's economy. He said, if it's successful, it's on him, but if it fails, it's on him. And Senator Kennedy, a big Republican, said that, it seems like they're distancing themselves from these tariffs.
He's got his own problems.
He does.
Yes.
He does.
The measles in Texas,
Yeah, RFK Jr., he's got his whole mess of problems, and here we are. Where do you see America right now? We're only, 60-something days into this?
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, he's talking about taking over Greenland, and he's changing the name of the what is it,
the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, and all of these things that are ridiculous, and he should be doing what he said he was going to do, which is reduce the cost of things. Instead, everything has just gone way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been no relief for anybody.
Mm-mm.
And I think that's what people are waiting for, is the relief.
And he said day one he was going to reduce the price of everything. Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing. So, is there anything he can do at this point to help himself?
Well, like he just did, that's a big help for him to call off the tariffs. That's probably the best thing he could do.
He's an interesting person, certainly this second time around, and I think a lot of people are starting to get angry with him. You can tell with these protests.
Yeah, right.
And apparently also we learned he wants, I think it's $92 million military parade to sell.
Oh my gosh, yes.
In D.C.
Talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves to have himself honored in a parade because it's his birthday.
In June, yeah.
Yeah.
79 years old.
And putting the equipment on the roads, they said it would tear up the roads. And it's so ridiculous,
Now, from somebody who's been in D.C. a lot, what do you make of military tanks going down the streets of D.C.?
I mean, he wants it to look like Russia did. What he's got with Russia, I don't know, but they must have something on him. And he's always trying to have big parades, and he talked about that before, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I hear it might come.
Huh?
I said, here it might. I don't think we got one before.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to do it the way they were talking.
$92 million this would cost, and the man's trying to save money?
Oh, he's not saving any money. He's spending so much money flying all these poor people that are being taken out of the country by ICE. I mean, he's spending They said like millions with these flights that they're taking him out with. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's he never did save any money. When he was in before, he spent money like it was out of style, you know.
I can't believe that the country will go for this military parade.
No, I don't see how it could because, well, they were talking about how much it was going to cost, and it was the people in New York that was talking about it. Is it going to be in Washington or New York?
Washington's what I thought.
Washington?
And they said it would destroy the roads and
Yeah. It was Washington people then that were talking,
yeah,
right?
I think it was DC people.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not sure why he wants to have a parade in DC. I don't think he's very popular there.
No. I don't think he's going to be very popular anywhere.
So here we are. Now, one thing I do want to talk about, there are a lot of new books out now about the last campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, those books come out quick, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And what we've learned is that people are saying that a Biden aide said in one of these books that Biden was not keeping up with debate prep prior to that June 2024 debate, and he was falling asleep at the pool. Now, this is a Biden aide who said this, and that Obama did not want Kamala Harris to be the nominee, that he wanted Gretchen Whitmer, and he wanted an open primary, and that actually Obama tried to call Clyburn because he knew that Clyburn had a lot of sway with Biden, and Clyburn knew what the call was about and wouldn't take it.
Oh, really?
Now, these are what books say,
Yeah.
but it sounds interesting.
It does, and it sounds possible.
You know, what do you make? Do you think, I mean, clearly what happened to Biden at that debate did not all happen in one night.
No, it certainly didn't.
So why did his aides, if they knew he wasn't keeping up with debate prep and they knew he was falling asleep by the pool, why would they let him go out there like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That was a big turning point.
Yeah, it sure was. It was a shock to all of us.
And there continues to be a lot of talk in these books that Obama and Biden do not really get along, that they both have very strong opinions, and that they just don't see eye to eye.
I believe they have strong opinions, because I have thought that several times when I've listened to things that were said about how they thought about each other. You know, Biden was always kind of whispering into Obama's ear when he was president, and it always looked to me like, you know, he wasn't really responding that much to what he was saying, but I'm not sure about that. But you watch things like that. You want the president and the vice president to get along. And you really did not see Kamala Harris talking that much to Biden. You know, when you think about it.
Not a whole lot.
No, she was in the background, but actually Biden was talking more to Obama than she talked to him. But maybe she talked to him when the camera wasn't on her. I don't know.
Well, and also apparently in these books they talk about how Harris did want to break away with some of Biden's policies, but that Biden made her feel obligated to not do that.
Really?
Yeah.
It could be. He might have been more difficult to work with than I thought he was, you know.
Yeah, that's what seems to be emerging, is that Biden, for some reason, in the last campaign, just could not be reasoned with by anybody. And I don't know why that would be, because most people seem to like him when they meet him, but he certainly didn't help the Democratic Party last time.
No. What I think was he thought he was right and he was going to stick to it. And you can get like that in politics. It's not a good thing to do, but you should be listening to people.
Yeah, and I think this is one occasion where if you look at, and I think there are a lot of hurt feelings, and maybe that's why a lot of people are laying back right now.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
You know, I saw a documentary recently where they were going over Bill Clinton. He was a part of the documentary when he was running for president. And they said when he would go through something bad, when somebody would accuse him of having an affair or something like that, one of his aides was in this documentary, and they said, I went out looking for him. I think it was after the Paula Jones thing. So he's running against Bush. He's not the favorite at that point. He's got this big scandal on all the cover of the magazine. They said, the guy said he went out looking for Bill Clinton and said he was shaking everybody's hand on the street. And then he was going into every restaurant that was opening and shaking everybody's hand.
That's him.
Then he went to a bowling alley and shook everybody's hand.
Yeah.
And then he said when that was done, he turned to the aide and said, do you want to play around? And he said that was Bill Clinton.
Oh, I tell you, he could change, his worries didn't seem to worry him. He seemed to be able to put them off and just talk to people and be happy, and it was amazing to me.
Well, it's interesting because Larry King was quoted at one point, who was the host of CNN's Larry King Live at the point, that when Clinton was going through his impeachment, it was a Sunday apparently, and Larry King got a call at home, and it came on the line and said, wait for a call from the president. And he said he had no idea what President Clinton was calling him for, and he said President Clinton came on the line and said, what's the score of the foot? Now he's being impeached by Congress, but Bill Clinton had that, he knew what was going on, and he wasn't going to let it show.
Yeah, he was terrific that way,
His wife had a little bit of that.
Yes, well, not as much as he did.
Not as much.
No, he was always able to shake things off.
Why do you think that time has overshadowed him a bit in his own time?
Well, it's the constant referring back to Monica, I think that's played on everybody's minds because it keeps being brought up. And then she had to show up the other day.
Yeah. Now she's out doing her thing.
Yes. And she's written her book.
She's written her, doing her podcast.
I do want to read that book. Yeah.
Though, what's interesting about it is, do you think if that had not happened, that particular affair, do you think Clinton would have been seen as Reagan is to the Democrats?
Yes. I think he would have had a wonderful remembrance by people. Yes. He was a great president.
Well, people say that Clinton loved being president, that he loved the job.
He seemed to, yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be the case with everybody else.
Yeah.
They do the job, but it wears on them.
Yeah.
They talk about Clinton in his last days just hating to leave the job, that he loved it.
We'd have a meeting every Wednesday in the Treasury, all the Treasury people. And the Secretary of the Treasury would report how Clinton was doing through all of this. And they would say, he seems to have his mind on his job. He's doing his work, And it was amazing.
Well, and I thought about you in this documentary because they talked about what he did for women, how he made Madeleine Albright the Secretary of State, how he appointed Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Janet Reno was the Attorney General.
Yes, and I knew her quite well.
What she got in all that trouble with Waco.
Yeah.
But what was she like?
Well, Waco was going on when I went into office.
Is that right?
Yes.
94.
Yes. And she was very nice person. I liked her. She's very kind. And that Waco thing was a big mess, really. Yeah.
I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick pause here because we're coming up on a break. But we're going to come back and talk a little bit about that because I don't think that is remembered enough what Bill Clinton did for women in politics by elevating them. And we're going to remind you about the Waco situation for those who may not remember. And also talk a little bit about Janet Reno, one of your friends, and what she was like behind the scenes. So we're going to come back with Mary Ellen Withrow right after this. Hey, Scott Spears here with WGH Talk Radio, and we are on the corner of Main and Center in beautiful Marion, Ohio. And behind me, you can see there is a protest going on here. It is April 5th, 2025, and it is the protest against what's going on with the Trump administration. And there are a lot of people here in Marion, very unhappy, honking, protesters gathered here in front of the historic Marion County Courthouse. Now, not only are they here, but they are also down by City Hall. It's tremendous. I'm going to get out of the way here. I'm going to keep talking, but we're going to pan this group of people across the way. It is a tremendous crowd here down in front of the Marion County Courthouse as we do a live broadcast here. And it is unbelievable. Now, some of the side streets, fight the decay, the honking and the cheering is as loud as could be down here on Center Street. Fire Trump.
Ho, ho! Eli Busker's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Eli Busker's got to go!
That was down at the Marion County Courthouse. They are walking up West Center Street, and they are meeting the group that is here at City Hall. These two groups are coming together to protest the Trump administration, and as the groups come together, the cheers are very loud here in Marion, Ohio. The two groups are coming together. The protest will come full circle momentarily. Look at that. Hands off what you don't understand. My goodness, what a sign that is. Hands off the entire public sector. The group is coming this way. There's our friend Glenn Coble, who was on the station for so many years, very active in this protest. And the protesters are all coming together behind us here. It is a happening here in Marion, Ohio. The horns are loud. The cheers are loud. What a feeling this is. Whether you are for this or against this, you have to say this is democracy in action. Peaceful protest, which it has been. Hands off our postal service. And the crowd is going wild. Look at the crowd now behind us. Look at the crowd. Hey, Scott Spears here, WGH Talk Radio with Glenn Coble, and we're about to round up this Rally for Democracy, which is what it was called today. Glenn, you went down to City Hall, everybody got together. We had people, we've done interviews with people today, ages 17 to 86.
Wow.
What does this say to you?
It says to me that a lot of people care about this upcoming election, which is what, a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years away. But it also says that people are downright mad at what's going on in our country.
If you could say something to Elon Musk and Donald Trump right now, what would you say?
Well, two things. Elon, go home. And Elon and Trump get money out of politics. The money is absolute corruption.
Do you think this is the first step for things to get better?
I hope. I'm not going to say yes, but I'll hope.
What did the turnout today? You thought maybe 15 people, you were hopeful. What does the turnout today say to you?
Now, you've got to understand, when we were talking last night, the weather forecast was horrible. This turnout is better than I thought, even with clear weather.
Glenn Coble, Scott Spears here on the corner of Main and Center from the Rally for Democracy. Scott Spears heading for the dugout. Hey, Scott Spears back here with the 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and we were taking a little stroll down memory lane in between our current events this week. I should note to people why we have this stuff on the desk here. Stewart's in Marion is celebrating 100 years this year, so we've put their bottles of root beer on our set. And I was shocked this week in Kroger when I found Cracker Jacks. But Mary Ellen, this is kind of strange, that it's Cracker Jack on the box. Now, I always thought they were Cracker Jacks.
Well, I guess I did too.
That's how the song goes.
There's no S.
There's no S.
Yeah. I wonder if they taste the same.
I think they're the same thing. It says the original. The original Cracker Jack.
Okay.
Owned by Pepsi now.
Hey, you haven't tried any.
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I would imagine they're the same. And then we have some peanuts here, because peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Mm-hmm. And some of our videos that have really people are watching out there have been dealing with Take Me Out to the Ball Game. So I thought peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Yeah. Well, have all the teams started now?
I think pretty much. I think they're all into the season.
Yeah.
This is a strange part of the season because it's still a little cold out.
Yes, but it was better today than it was yesterday.
And next week I think it's supposed to be good.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's getting warmer. I think it's going to get warmer.
We're heading into Easter.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yes.
Now, what we were talking about before we went to break was all the people that Bill Clinton promoted women-wise. This is in a new documentary on Bill Clinton. I think A&E did it. But talking about Janet Reno was made Attorney General, Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was appointed to the Supreme Court. Of course, your appointment came under Bill Clinton, Mary Ellen, to Treasurer of the United States. So a lot of women were appointed to high positions under Bill Clinton. Before we talk about your friend Janet Reno, why do you think he appointed so many women to so many high positions?
Well, I think he trusted working with women. That's a good question. I remember they said he had more women in his administration than anybody before, I think is what they said at the time. And, well, Margaret Albright, she was the first, wasn't she?
I think first female Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. And Janet Reno, I think, was the first.
She might have been the first female Attorney General.
Yeah, and I said earlier that I knew her fairly well, but that Waco situation was a real problem there for a while because I was sworn in right at that time, and it seemed like all the attention was on Waco. And
For people who don't remember, what Waco was, it's a town in Texas. And I guess you'd call him a cult leader. His name was David Koresh. I'm surprised I remember that name.
Yeah.
It's been a while ago.
Yeah, I didn't remember it.
David Koresh, they had a compound down there, and women and children and men were in this compound. It wasn't Heaven Gate. I forget what the cult was called. But they were in Waco, Texas, and they wanted him to leave, release the children, release the women, and he wouldn't do it. And finally, the federal government got involved, and Janet Reno made the decision to send, I think it was smoke bombs in. And when that happened, the place caught on fire, people were killed.
Yeah, that's right.
And she got a lot of bad press on that.
Yeah. Well, I remember the chief of staff at the Treasury had to testify, and they even took his diary and read it in the court. And for that reason, I didn't keep a diary for 2 years.
No diary.
Yeah, no diary for 2 years. Yeah.
Did you? I've never asked. This is a question we've never gotten to. When you were sworn in, or when they had told you on November 22nd, 93 that you had the job, did you sit down and write what you felt in that moment or anything like that?
No, I didn't. I was just, I was so happy.
It was just a good move, good mood.
I was so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet so. And that day, was that an exhausting day? Because you worked that day too, didn't you?
I did, and I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. And I told my driver that drove me home, I said, I got the job.
So you did tell the driver?
Yeah. And I told Norman, and of course my family knew it. But I didn't tell anybody else. Yeah.
Now, your driver, he was trustworthy.
He was very trustworthy. Yeah.
What was his reaction?
Well, he said he was excited for me. Yeah. He said, "Oh, good." He said, "I'm driving the U.S. Treasurer around." Yeah.
And you were state treasurer at that time.
Yeah.
Now, also, when you were sworn in as United States Treasurer, you worked that. Didn't you have to go somewhere after all the parties and festivities were over?
Yes, I went to the post office thing because it was a national meeting that they had, and my good friend Bob Lowry had asked me to do this, And Norman said, well, all our friends are here. I said, I promised him I'd do this. So we went out to, it was in Virginia, and we went on the metro and found our way, and then couldn't find our way back. We got lost coming back, but they were very happy to have me, and they introduced me and everything, and it was a good time. Yeah.
So that day you went sworn in,
Yeah.
big celebration, everybody's there, and then you got on the metro and went to Virginia,
Yeah.
and then came back that night.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got off in the wrong place, and we were walking through this field, and we were staying at a hotel. And when I signed into the hotel, it wanted my address. I said, I don't have an address. I felt kind of bad about that. And then the next day, Norman starts looking for a place for us, because we were in the hotel for about a week during that time period. And then we found a place to rent really close to the Capitol. I can't remember. I think it was 8th Street or something. And yeah, it had a place to buy things that was kind of close. It was a well-known place. I can't remember what they called it. And we were there for a month until we bought our house. And that's when we moved to Bethesda and got situated. But I said there for a while I was going to work from a different direction every day. But Norman was driving me to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to get myself to work and home, but they took care of me during the day, you know.
What was it? What was a typical day when you were living in Bethesda, working in D.C.? What time did you get up? What time did you get home? What was a typical day like?
Well, I would leave at about 7 o'clock because I wanted to beat the traffic. And then when I got to work, I would drive to work and park there. A lot of the people that were there came on the metro, but some of us had our cars, and I would go in the basement, the bottom level, and go up to my office on the second floor. And I had 3 women working for me in there. That there was one from the Bureau of Engraving and Printing that had been assigned to me, and one from the Mint that had been assigned to me, and one from Savings Bonds that had been assigned to me. And so, yeah, then we'd start our day. But then after I was in office, then I was constantly traveling. Yeah.
What time would you get home at night?
I would get home probably at about 6:30. The traffic coming home was a lot worse. And it would depend. Sometimes they'd have a 5 o'clock meeting, which was a mistake. and you'd be late getting home for those. But yeah, it was Treasury. Treasury was a nice place to work. It was considered one of the best places to work, really. That's what everybody was telling me.
Was it ever difficult to drive in? I mean, Washington is such a difficult city to drive in.
Yeah, I had about 5 different ways I could get to work. I was, what did I say, 7 miles from the White House. I was right beside the White House. It would take me about a half hour in the morning, and it would take me like an hour and a half at night. Yeah.
Did you, have you ever been back to your old office since you left?
Yeah. I went back about 4 years ago. Yeah.
What was it like to go in there?
It's different. It was being redone when I was in my last year. I had to move to another office down by the the bell that's outside. It was the office was right by the east wing there, and they were making treasury like it had been originally. And my office that I had been in, that was my office, was really being changed. They moved the there was a bookcase, and that was taken out, and they put in this door, and I had a big buffet that was owned by the circus in Baltimore, and it was gorgeous. It had marble places to put flowers on the sides of it. It was just beautiful. It was huge, great big thing, and I had a lot of antiques, and I had an original desk that was right outside my office in the where the secretary was. A beautiful desk, and it had some of the utensils that the engravers had used, the original engravers, their equipment, and all of that. Some of that got lost in the fire when we had our fire. You know, the roof caught on fire, and that was about 2 or 3 years. I can't remember exactly when that fire was, but they were working on the roof and they set it on fire by accident.
Were you there when that happened?
I was at the Mint looking at it on television. I said, "Oh my gosh!" And they were pouring so much water, and it was coming down the stairs right outside my office, and then into my office and the cash room. And what they had to do then, I couldn't get back in my office. I had to go stay at the bureau. Well, no, I went to the Mint and stayed there for several months while they were working on my office. They took my equipment, all the stuff out of my desk. I had all this stuff in my desk, and everything was still there.
Really?
Yeah, nobody ever stole anything. It was amazing.
You know, recently, I forgot, somebody had asked me this. The papers that you dealt with, you know, people have their papers that they send to libraries and things.
Yeah.
Where are all your papers at?
They're at the Library of Congress.
Oh.
Yes. They packed up all of my stuff and it went there, yeah.
Now, what kind of things are in there? What kind of things do they keep?
Well, things that said certified.
Things that were important.
Yes.
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 And they're there, people can take a look.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I've been back to the Library of Congress because, I don't know, when I go in there I feel strange, though. That's where my book is. It's in the Library
It's in the Library of Congress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so people will be able to check it out, because I know a lot of people do go back for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to look at something, it's nice that they can pull the actual paper up and see how it all came to be.
Yeah.
Like the redesign of the money, are there memos and paperwork regarding that?
Yeah. Well, that would be at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. They would have all that.
Now, things like pictures, where would that stuff be?
Lots of pictures, yeah. They would have them, yeah. My main picture, my big picture that they have is they pull it out for certain things sometimes, I guess, yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. It's nice to know that all this stuff is around. But back to Janet Reno. What was she like when you were just talking to her?
She's just like a friend. I mean, you wouldn't know that she's in that job. I mean, she was very nice, yeah.
How did you become friendly with her?
Well, it was in the things that I was trying to think of the things that we worked together on, and we worked together on certain things. and we would get together and discuss it. Yeah.
When you look back at that time, one thing about Bill Clinton that is kind of interesting, you did know who the people were. I don't know. If somebody said now, who's the Secretary of State? Do they really know it's Marco Rubio? I bet not.
Yeah,
But they
that's
knew
right.
they knew who Madeleine Albright was.
Yes.
They knew who Janet Reno was. I'm sure they don't know who the Attorney General is right now. I bet they can't name her. I bet they can't name who the Treasury. I bet they couldn't name the Secretary of the Treasury right now. He's been in the news a lot.
Bassett.
But
He's been on the news quite a bit, hasn't he?
He has been.
Yeah.
we don't have a treasurer right now, do we?
Nope. Nobody's been appointed, so I'm listening.
Who was the last treasurer?
She was a Native American. She was from Connecticut. She was head of her tribe, the Milagro tribe. Yeah.
And you got to meet with her when you were there, and
I have not met her, but she wrote a letter to me and sent me a signed dollar, and I sent one back to her, and I never got to meet her in person.
have any of the treasurers that came after you, do you have any contact with them?
Well, now the one that was right after me came to that meeting I went to about 4 years ago. She was there, and she had been under George Bush, and she didn't last long. She was, and she went back to, she was from California. She went back to California and ran against one of the women running for office, one of the well-known women in Congress, and right now I can't think her name, but and she lost. I mean, she never made it to she didn't get through the primary, and then there was another one appointed from California, and I met her, and I would see her once in a while. Both of them kind of refused to sign money. And I said, that's a mistake. I said, we don't do very much in government that makes people happy, but that makes people happy, and you better do it. But they didn't sign much money.
Have the state treasurers that came after you gotten in contact with you?
No. Let me think. No.
That's interesting how some people do and some people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember things. I've got to bring it back.
It's been a minute or two.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
No, I can't think that anybody has. I'm probably not thinking of somebody I should be thinking of.
Do you get invited to events at the state treasury?
No.
Really?
Mm-mm.
That's interesting.
No.
You would think.
The current state Democratic Party is a total mess. That's all I need to say. Yeah.
Well, one question about that. What do you think? Is there any movement being made to fix that? We've talked about it for so long now.
Well, I would hope that the people that should be working on it are, but I don't know that they are. I really think things are really not the way they should be. Yeah.
Seems like it went upside down about 15 years ago and has never been able to rebound for whatever reason.
And the guy that was head of it at that time was a reasonably good person. What's his name? He's still around and writes books, and right now I can't say his name. Benny or Penny, or let's see. That's all right.
Yeah. Well, and for a while we had David Pepper, who seemed like...
That's it.
Oh, him,
David
okay.
Pepper.
Yeah, he's still around. He's still out there.
Well, it was during his time that things sort of quieted down I remember he was in charge when Obama came, and I met Obama. Yeah, and they changed their operation of people when they run for office on how they handle the cost of it. All of that's, I don't think it's correct what they're doing now.
Do you think, is there anybody you see on the horizon in Ohio that you say they've got it? There aren't, I don't think any.
Right now I can't think of anyone. Maybe there's somebody out there I don't know about.
Well, at this point, unfortunately, I don't think there are any state office holders.
No, there aren't.
I don't know
none at
that
all.
that's ever happened.
Oh, yes.
Where there's never.
We had all Democrats during when I first my first race, first two races. So we were all Democrats in those first two races I won.
What do you think allowed for that during a Reagan era?
There was a scandal.
Oh, there was a scandal in
Yeah,
Ohio.
there was a Republican scandal. Yeah.
You know, why do scandals... You know, we talked about Bernie Moreno. He's a Republican statewide. He can call somebody the Fuhrer, an Adolf Hitler reference, and people just kind of go over it. I don't think they would have in those days. I don't think they would have just blown past that.
I don't think they're going to let this go.
I don't know. He hasn't apologized. It's been about a week.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, it happened last...
How's come I didn't even hear about it?
Yeah, well, that tells you what's going on.
That tells me something's wrong there.
Well, I thought the Democrats would in Ohio certainly would have been all over that.
They should have been. Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. Well.
And here we are. And you know, the rally here in Marion, the paper did not cover it, but they cover a lot of other things.
Yes.
They didn't cover that.
They are a Republican newspaper.
They certainly are showing that as of late.
Yeah.
They finally got some local writers back, but boy, they certainly have a little tilt still there in 2025.
Well, Warren G. Harding, he was a Republican.
He was, yeah. Maybe they're going back to, I often thought about going, it's kind of from another media person, it's not a good thing to do, but I feel like going and saying, do you know who started this paper? I bet they couldn't say. I bet they wouldn't know.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean who?
The new reporters?
Oh.
I don't think they would know.
Is that right?
Yeah. They might. Maybe I'm...
Well, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, but I think they would know what president's here, I would hope. Yeah. But I don't think they would make the connection that he started the newspaper that they work at.
Yeah.
History is a weird thing right now.
Yeah.
People leave out things for whatever reason.
Huh.
I don't know. It's strange. It's very, very strange.
Well, history is very important. We should all pay attention to it.
Well, and people like history for the most part. I mean, we just attended the night at the museum. Clearly, people like it.
Yeah.
But it's a strange thing. People want it when they want it, and then they don't want it when they don't want it. I kept thinking, and it's sad, but I wonder how many people know who John Glenn is.
I was wondering that too. They asked me today to speak to the. They were going to bring the students to the women's club home, and they were talking about what I would talk about, and I was wondering if they knew who John Glenn, if they would know.
I think if you'd say the astronaut, that would interest them.
Yeah.
But off the top of their head, probably not, unfortunately.
Well, I asked that when they come to the museum, because I talk about the $20 bill that I gave him. And usually the children do not know who he is, really. I think it's only the adults that respond to that.
Well, you know what's interesting, though? It's hard to understand if you did not live through that time, which, I did. How big a deal that was when he was the oldest person going into space.
Yeah.
So how big a deal it was that you gave him this money that was in space. And the fact that he was so important in the space program. And then he went into politics. And he did run for president. Never really got off the ground, but very well. But he ran for president.
Yeah.
And He's it's very strange. But he was one of those guys, I think he lived into his 90s, who was always active until he couldn't be.
Yes.
He never
He was
stopped.
very active, yeah.
So that was good for him.
Yes.
And he has a museum, I think, there in Wapakoneta, which is good.
No, that's the...
Oh, that's Neil Armstrong.
Yeah, Neil
Yeah,
Armstrong.
where is John Glenn?
John Glenn's is at Ohio State.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, there's... You know, we really are big in space, and I wonder how many people know that. Buzz Aldrin was
Yes.
an Ohio person.
Yeah, right.
You know, all these aviation... Wright brothers.
Yeah.
All this aviation. It's interesting. You know, we're in the midst of this competition here in Marion. When you were in Washington, why did you decide to move back to Marion?
Well, my family was here. And Marion's my home.
Right.
Yeah.
What has it been like to be back these 13 years?
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy it here. Yeah.
Did you ever miss Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
I miss the museums. I could go to those and spend a lot of time and learn a lot, you know.
Yeah. It's an interesting place, Washington.
It is, yeah.
I do want to let people know we do have one segment coming up in the program, one remaining segment. Matt Morgan will join us, and we're going to go over some current events here. But it's always interesting to go down memory lane because I think there's a lot of stuff. The 90s were an interesting time.
Yes, they were. Well, they were for me, yeah.
Yeah, busy time.
Yes, yeah.
When you think back to the 90s and all the things you were doing, were you able to ever take vacations and
Yes.
enjoy things?
Yes. I took little short vacations,
Yeah.
but really the job was my vacation because they wanted me to go, you know, I was going all over the world with the Olympic coins, and I was seeing the world. And of course, Norman, if he went with me, had to pay for his transportation, but yeah, I got to travel all over the world, and it didn't cost me anything.
You know, that's interesting. Before we take the final break here, you were treasurer when the Olympic Games in
Yes.
America happened, but because of the bombing, you did not attend that Olympic Games.
That's right. I was all ready to go, and I was looking forward to it. And I thought, man, I'm not going down there.
Yeah, what was that like at the time, to be in government?
Well,
They didn't know who the bomber was.
my gal that worked for me was there, and she was there. The office, the where they were selling the coins, was in kind of an alley, and they weren't real happy with the location. I can remember that, but they sold everything, you know.
And the Olympic coin was a commemorative coin
There's a whole bunch of them
for the,
for different things, for the different categories. Yeah,
and that was the 96 Olympic Games
yeah,
in Atlanta, which you
Yeah.
can still go down there, I think, and see remnants of the Olympic area.
yeah, probably. You know, and the coins are in all the coin shops now. Yeah.
It was an interesting time. We're going to take one more break, come back with Matt Morgan and Mary Ellen right after this. Hey, Scott Spears here with Matt Morgan, 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and Mike Larson, who has written for some great people like Bill Maher, Ellen DeGeneres, Jay Leno. Can't be beat. We talked about Elon Musk. He's out there. $20 million plus in a Senate race in Wisconsin didn't do him a bit of good. The more liberal person, let's say, not necessarily the Democrat, won that race in Wisconsin. What do you make of that, Matt?
Well, I think it shows how things are trending right now.
Mary Ellen, what do you make of what went on in Wisconsin?
Well, I think it's a good sign.
Mike, I hear Elon Musk is cutting a lot of things in the government. What do you think he can do to help along this process?
Well, one easy way would be to look into the expensive golf trips that some guy in Washington is taking every weekend down in Florida. I'm sure there's a few $100 million they could save there.
Hey, Scott Spears back with you here, and we are all filled up now. Matt Morgan has joined us, Glenn Coble, and the 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, sticks around with us here. And now we're going to have the discussion on current events, and only if you could have been here during that last break. But if you were watching the episode prior to that, there was a Stewart's root beer bottle sitting here between Mary Ellen and I. And this is why I guess we should have left him in the crate, because Matt brought everybody drinks. and he went to put the straw in his drink, and it knocked the bottle over, and the bottle hit the floor, and the cap shot off. And it went everywhere. So there's a stream of Stewart's root beer forever on the rug now.
It smells good.
And, yeah, it smells good in here, though. It's a nice little thing. So that's what happened during the break. So, Mary Ellen, interesting times.
Yes, yes. I wonder if it'll leave a stain.
I don't know. We'll check next week and see how it's going. Now, the sign that's behind Matt, we want to start with this because Glenn Coble, his group Citizens for Democracy, one of the groups he helped found here in Marion, led a protest last week at the Marion County Courthouse. Now, another group led a protest at City Hall. And this is the sign. Well, I guess let's pull it out and let Glenn hold it in front here for a second. Glenn, tell us how this all came to be on April the 5th, 2025. And you were holding that downtown.
Yeah, I was. It was kind of fun. I've been in an awful lot of rallies and a lot of protests and stuff, being my ancient age, but from Nixon's all the way up to today, I kind of enjoy letting people know where I stand. And we had a good time. We had about 100+ people that came for Citizens for Democracy, and about another 100+ people that showed up for the Marion Democratic Party. And at about halfway through, we got together and we marched up and down the street between the courthouse and the city hall, and it was a great turnout. We had a lot of noise. We did see a few single finger salutes, but and we
A lot of honking.
a lot of honking and
Positive honking.
Yeah, when we
That's good.
had the George Floyd protest about 2 years ago. We had a lot of people show up there, but not nearly as many positive fists in the air and cheers as we had this time. We had a very positive response this time.
And at chants. I've never
Yeah.
heard the chants before. Now, you remember the chant?
Ho ho,
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
hey hey ho ho, Trump has got to go, or something like
Or
that.
Elon Musk has got to go.
Musk has gotta
He was
go.
a big part of that. So this was being chanted in downtown Marion by about 200 people. Now, were people told to bring signs?
We were told if you wanted to bring signs, and then the Democratic or the Citizens for Democracy made a bunch of extra signs so that if you got there without a sign, we'd give you one.
I was just interested in how many signs there were.
Oh.
There were a lot of signs.
There had to be close to half the people with a sign.
About
if not
100
more.
signs.
Yeah.
So about 100 signs. That
Yeah.
really caught people's eye who would be
I-
driving up and down the street.
I hope this sign isn't covering up my beautiful face.
No. So how did you come to fire Trump with a Ukrainian flag? With an American flag at the top.
Well, I have both an American flag and a Ukrainian flag because I believe we have to be together. And if you are real sticky on the American flag should be above any other flag in the United States, my American flag is about an eighth of an inch, and I measured it, it's about an eighth of an inch higher than the Ukrainian flag. And I just felt that's part of the whole deal. We're supporting democracy, and the Ukrainian people are fighting for democracy, and that's why we kind of put that up.
So there it was. And are there other protests planned?
From what I understand, there are. I'm not exactly sure the date. I think maybe next Saturday we might be having another one. But I looked on my phone just before I came over here to see if I had it on my phone, but I do not. So I'm going to try to make sure I put it on my Facebook page if I find out that we do have one. And yeah, I'm sure there will be several more.
You'll let us know.
I will.
And we'll get the word out.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen, does this make you hopeful?
Oh yes, and there were more things going on the next day or two
Yes.
after Saturday. Yeah, Monday and Tuesday they were showing them still going on.
Yeah.
Matt, what did you make? You saw some of the videos of what was going on in Marion.
I mean, there were a lot of people that showed up. A lot. I don't want to say a lot more than I expected to show up, but there were a lot of people there. I mean, I expected a lot of people, but not close to 200. That's a lot of people. So So I think it's good in the long run. I think that the more the public voices their opinion, the more things I think will get done.
People have tried to diminish the number. I thought that was interesting. When we posted the original story, they said, I went down there and there were only 50 people there.
Oh, we had more than 50 just on one side of the block where we were. So yeah.
So that told me there was a little bit of fear in the other side, that they would actually go down there and count heads.
Yeah.
That must be a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
You don't do that if you're not worried about things.
A lot of the pictures were not taken so it was easy to see lots of people, but there were lots of people there, and I'll guarantee you there were at least over 150, and it was guesstimated at about 200.
I thought about 200. But so when somebody shot back to me when we made the news post and said, I went down there and there was only 50 people, I thought, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's talk tariffs, because a lot has happened today. We're taping this on Wednesday. Without going into all the quotes and everything that's happened, Trump has paused the tariffs for 90 days, basically saying that it's because we were possibly headed into a recession, that people were getting upset in the country, getting a little queasy, I think is what he said, was the quote. And here we are. Now, he is happy and taking credit that the stock market has went up quite a bit. I'm not sure where it is now, but it went up right away, 7 percentage points, 2,500 points. And he said nobody's ever heard of it. It's going to be a record. So that's Trump talking about the...
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But a 90-day pause in the tariffs. Now, what do you make of that, Glenn?
Well, I felt that it was going to have to happen. I couldn't imagine that they were going to keep on doing juggling with tariffs. That only brings America down and puts us in bad light throughout the world, not just in America. And I felt he was going to have to do that. I didn't expect it quite this soon. I thought he was going to hold out longer. But as long as he's figured out a way to take some credit for it, that's when he put it up.
Mary Ellen, what do you make of the tariffs stopping or pausing for 90 days?
Well, I'm really glad they did. I thought he would go on longer than this, and I was wondering how he could stand to do that. So evidently he couldn't stand it.
Now, it's very interesting. This happened this morning. This is how quick things are happening, and I think they were happening yesterday. But this is before the tariffs were paused, just to give you an idea of what's been going on in the world. There was a 104% tariff put on China. Now, this is a quote. Normally I wouldn't say it, but here it is. Trump says countries are calling him up and kissing his ass, wanting to make a deal. He said that in a speech. Now, clearly that might not be the case because he's paused the tariffs after he said that. So, what do you make of that, Matt?
Well, I mean...
I can't picture FDR saying that. Can you, Mary Ellen?
No, I can't. I can't really... I don't think Carter would ever say it.
I can't think of
imagine any president.
No.
What a quote.
Go down the list.
I mean, he said this in front of people in a tuxedo.
With Washington.
Yeah, I mean, in the great presidential speeches of all time, are you going to drive that one right in there? I mean, it's very odd.
Maybe Nixon might have said something like that.
Well, I don't think he would have.
But quietly.
No, he wouldn't have.
No,
I don't think.
Nixon was a Quaker.
That's
I don't think
true.
he spoke
was,
like that.
Yeah.
So, no. Matt, what do you make? I can't see Obama or Clinton or anybody.
no.
No.
Oh, no, I mean, I don't think anybody...
The Bushes, Reagan, they didn't speak like that.
No, I don't think any other president would use that term, but use we would phrase it like that. But and I think he's probably lying anyways. I mean, the Canadian Prime Minister has been giving speeches talking about the whole it's not Canada first. It's like buy Canada or something like that.
We're going to get into that in just a second.
So I mean, there's speeches on that. I mean, they've tariffed us back. It's certainly not. It's certainly not. They're definitely not bending. It's like it reminds me of when he said that that they caved in when Canada and Mexico gave pretty much nothing in exchange for the original tariffs to go away.
So he says this one day, and then the next day he pauses the tariffs for 90 days. So why are they lining up to kiss his rear end?
Well, that's the thing. They're not. I think he just says what he thinks sounds good, and
You know, I saw a clip
People
today.
believe him, and that's I think.
Well, do they?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
There's a
His
good-
people might.
Yeah, there's a decent number of people who just who do in fact believe him.
I heard Joy. I saw a clip today where Joy Behar on The View said she didn't believe that other countries were lining up to kiss his rear end because you'd have to knock Mike Johnson out of the way, who is the Speaker of the House. Now, see, the Republican. That was a funny line by her on the show.
She does a good job on her funny lines.
You know, I'd say about Joy. Joy's been on my show a couple of times, and I say I understand Whoopi's a comedian. But to me, she's not funny on that show, The View.
You know, and you know what was interesting when our gentleman was here,
Mike
with
Larson.
us, when he said that being with Whoopi is unreal. He said you can be with a president, and it's nothing like when you're with Whoopi.
Yeah, she's big.
She's big. Yeah.
Yeah, she's big on the subway.
Crowds brings the crowds. I was amazed at that.
Well, I am just always surprised because she's very serious on that show. Very rarely does she get a joke off.
No.
But Joy Behar, who's very serious as well, but she thinks on her feet. I mean, she really can.
She's so funny.
She can land, but
she's good.
She makes a point, but she can also come up with a line like it's a live show. I mean, those lines can't be plants.
Yeah.
So
Well, Whoopi really is the MC.
Yeah.
moderator.
And so, therefore, she has to maintain a little bit more serious side, I think.
Maybe. So as we go down here, what do you think? Do you think countries were lining up to kiss Trump's rear end? So
Have you seen his rear end?
no, I haven't seen his rear end.
I've seen pictures of him playing
Maybe
golf.
Stormy Daniels has seen his rear end, but I don't think I have.
I can't, that he's just trying to save face.
He's played a lot of golf lately.
Yeah.
He sure has every day, I think.
Yeah.
And the next day, though, he pauses the tariffs. So
Yeah.
here we are. Now, interestingly enough, though, there's a little bit of an unhappiness in the Trump White House because trade advisor Peter Navarro, who's advising all this trade stuff, does not like Elon Musk. And he went on television and he said Elon Musk is a car assembler. He's not a car manufacturer. Now, Elon Musk was much more eloquent when he spoke back at Navarro. He said Navarro was dumber than a sack of bricks.
Yeah.
So there, and then they went to the White House press secretary and said there seems to be some problem here in the White House. And the White House press secretary, watch it for yourself. She said, this poor woman said, boys will be boys, and we'll let them continue to spar. This is the most transparent White House in the history.
The press secretary.
Boys will be boys.
She's just obnoxious. I mean, I can't
No, but
stand.
That young girl.
Yeah, I can't stand to even have
I
her
can't stand
picture
her
on.
either.
But would you like her job? I mean, she's got to explain this stuff. I mean,
She's making a lot of money, so.
yeah, but what a horrible job to have to try to explain this.
Well, and
It attracts
she's
horrible
doing a
people.
terrible job.
She
too.
is doing a terrible job.
Yeah.
She's not. Yeah, boys will be boys. What do you
Yeah.
think, Matt? Elon Musk, the head of the Doge, is fighting with the trade advisor in public, and her answer is, boys will be boys.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily surprise me. I mean, like the Trump administration as a whole has seemed to be the most dysfunctional administration that I've known of. I mean, using the signal to message war plans back and forth, and accidentally adding journalists to it. That's crazy.
Nobody got fired.
No.
No,
And nobody admitted that they were responsible.
no.
So it's
That's showbiz in the country right now.
one big mess.
Well, and by the way, China has said Beijing will fight these tariffs to the end, and Canada, the Prime Minister of Canada, the new one, said the friendship with the United States is over. So, I mean, come on, where are we in this country? I mean, this is funny to a certain degree, but that's not very funny.
That really bothers me because I think the friendship between Americans and Canadians as people is really strong.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
But it's not. I think the people would be strong together. It's the stupid administration that has done that to us, and it's not the Canadian administration; it's the American administration.
Yeah, but I never thought, Mary Ellen, I would live to see the day where Canada, our northern border, our friend, would say the friendship is over. They didn't say it's on pause. They didn't say we'll fix this. They said it's over.
Well, they were demonstrating on their side of the fence.
Yeah, yeah.
And how were they demonstrating? Were they
I think they were
Kind of how
holding
the United
signs
States
and
was.
stuff.
Yeah,
were
anti-Trump.
They against Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they understand what we're dealing with. Yeah.
But I think they are just, this is who you elected.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't elect him.
Well,
didn't either.
and I think a lot of people are saying that now since they've
Yeah,
said this, is saying
yeah.
we all don't like this man.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the world. I think Trump has messed up our diplomacy with most of the world because it gives this view, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. It gives this illusion, I guess, that American foreign policy. I mean, it is kind of wavering. It goes back and forth, but it's never so shaky. So I think that I think that people are just Europe and Canada and Mexico. I think they're trying to not to attempt to try. Best way to put it here. They're trying to not need the United States. They're trying to not be dependent on the United States anymore. I mean, Europe has said that they're like going to beef up their military and start working on trade within amongst themselves, pretty much.
Yeah, but once you do that, you don't go back. It's not because we're going to get a person friendly to them and they're going to say, oh, you know what,
yeah.
we'll just dismantle all
That's-
this.
No, they won't.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
Oh yeah, that's my point. I think that he's given the world the impression that it's the American American foreign policy is shaky due to the fact that there's always administration changes, and that's kind of been the problem with foreign policy for a while.
Well, I don't think there have ever been administration changes like this.
Not this bad, but foreign policy changes just with administration in general. So that's why a lot of
Yeah, but this is about tariffs. This is not about policy. I don't
tariffs are
think
policy.
this thing with Canada has nothing to do with our policy. This has everything to do with tariffs. And what's going on with the EU doesn't
But
have a thing to do with our policy.
Are Donald Trump's foreign it's part of Donald Trump's foreign policy.
Is it?
Yes.
I mean, he just paused them.
100%.
That's his foreign. Well, Russia didn't get that foreign policy note. There's no tariff in Russia.
That is his foreign policy. He's
I don't
in
know.
favor of Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem.
You know what? I don't know if it's his foreign. Militarily, certainly it's not his foreign policy, but I think it's his financial policy, and I think that's turning everybody against us. And, it is having repercussions in other areas than just finances because people are beefing up their military. Now, that's not as a result of we're not going to help you anymore. That's as a result of them being angry about our financial policies toward them and these tariffs.
Donald Trump was also asked in a press conference, I guess is what you would call it, if the European Union dropped their, I don't know if it was the European, but if Europe dropped all their tariffs to 0%, if we would do the same and get rid of ours, and he said no.
No.
Well, there you go. So but he paused it. So again, can you believe the man?
No.
Oh, I don't believe anything the man says. I think he's.
So why quote him at this point? I mean, he's going to say what he's going to say.
He's going to do something funny tomorrow, too. Yeah.
Oh, he does something funny every day, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Well, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Glenn?
Well, my daughter-in-law, who knows how I stand as far as Mr. Trump goes, wants to buy me a hat that says, Canada, we hate him too.
Well, that's...
So I told her no, I couldn't wear that in public.
Now, here's what. Shortly after 1 p.m., President Donald Trump said he was pausing reciprocal tariffs on all countries for 90 days while raising China's, though, I don't want to get this part, to 125%. That followed a pledge from China to raise its tariff on U.S. goods to 84% after hefty new tariffs on its goods took effect at 12:01 a.m. on Wednesday. During the day, the European Commission, which represents the European Union, approved a set of tariffs to start April 15th, calling U.S. tariffs unjustified and damaging, causing economic harm to both sides as well as the global economy. So maybe that's why Trump pulled out. I mean, the EU was saying, listen, we're going to, on April 15th, we're going to, approved a set of tariffs. And Trump knew they were coming. Now, he still got it for China, though. 125%?
I think it would be best for China to just, Tesla's a big seller in China. I think China should just ban Tesla, and all of a sudden we'd be real chummy with China.
I don't know, Mary Ellen. What do you think about staying in this with China, but the rest of the countries, I guess, we're pausing?
He's been talking mostly about China anyway, and like what he's going to do to China, more than the other countries. And he seems to have a thing against China for some reason.
Now, this is what will happen. We'll stay with it. But one other thing we did talk about earlier on in the episode was Trump wants a $92 million military parade to celebrate his birthday in Washington, D.C., coming up in June, 79th birthday. Well, what do you think about that, Glenn?
I think that it shows exactly what he is. He's a 6-year-old
Waste
that wants people to pay attention to him. Yeah. And he is no better or no worse than... Matter of fact, he's probably worse than a 6-year-old. He's a baby that nobody's ever told no to. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that somebody would demand a $92 million parade for themselves. I was embarrassed when I asked my mom to bake me a cake.
Well, and now we've got $92 million parade. And Mary Ellen, you said earlier you're not a fan of this.
Oh, no, not at all, because it would be so detrimental to everything, or what we stand for, and to him. I mean, we don't want to show him any respect, really, do we? Why would we want to?
I don't think he's popular in D.C. I can't figure out, is that just because that's where he lives half the time?
He's not there hardly at all, I don't think.
He's down in Florida.
He's down in Florida playing golf. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I want to touch on this story because it's Ohio. We did it earlier on in the episode, but I want to get Glenn and Matt's opinion on this. I'll shorten it up here. U.S. Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican from Ohio, called the Senate's top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish U.S. official elected, Führer. A reference, of course, used for Adolf Hitler. What he said to reporters was, here's the main thing you've got to understand. Republicans are independently minded. Democrats are monolithic sheep that follow Führer Schumer's orders. Chuck Schumer's response from his office was, that's textbook anti-Semitism, so we won't comment on it. And Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League said in a statement, no excuse for comparing a Jewish leader in the Senate to Adolf Hitler. What do you think, Glenn?
I think it's absolutely disgusting, and I think he should have his mouth washed out with soap. And I also it just proves what children they are, that they have to call names and they have to do stuff like that. And then to say that we are a monolithic group that follows Schumer, no matter... If any group is a monolithic group, it is the MAGA group that follows Trump no matter what he says.
Yep, I was just about to say, it sounds like a little bit of projection.
Yeah.
Well, and Schumer just released a book, Anti-Semitism in America, a warning, in the last month. So here it is. Anti-Semitism right in your face.
You know what really makes me mad? I grew up, my father had a summer cottage up on a lake up northern Michigan, just not too far from Lake Michigan. And most of our waterfront was Jewish. And I loved those people. And I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't. I mean, they were just wonderful people to be around. And it has nothing to do with their people. They were just people. They were like me. And they were like Mary Ellen. They were like Matt. And well, not like you. Nobody's like you. But
I was with you, Glenn, right up till the end. I was with you right up till the end.
Well, I remembered everybody's name.
You did remember everybody's name. I
yours.
know. You got to the end and it was all over. See, that's why Whoopi's not funny when she's the moderator. When you moderate a show, you just can't get it off like that. But I honestly thought that anti-Semitism toward Jewish people, especially from a younger group like Moreno, would not be heavy, but apparently there it is. Yeah. There it is.
Well, can anybody explain to me why you don't like a person just because of their religion? I just don't understand
I never understood that either. I mean, it shouldn't even enter into anything. That, it should be what's their personality.
Are you a good person or a bad person? Right. That's easy to tell.
Right.
What do you make of this, Matt?
I know a couple of people who are anti-Semitic.
Do you?
I do.
Your friends?
I would say I'm friends with one of them. Not the other one.
Yeah.
Why are they anti-Semitic? Why would anybody care whether you're Jewish, you're Catholic, or you're Hindu? I just don't understand.
Now, the one kid I just sat next to in school, don't even know how we got on the topic, but I honestly don't know his reasoning. But the other kid, I debate him on politics and all the things all the time. And his reasoning is, by the way, he would claim he's not an anti-Semite. He would say that he does not dislike Jews, he dislikes...
Zionists.
Zionists, yes. Zionism.
Zionists. Oh.
But he believes that Zionists control the banking system and like I don't know, like basically all the old school, again, Jews control Hollywood and Jews control, like basically that's it. I mean, they believe it.
But that used to end people's careers. I mean, Marlon Brando said a few things like that, and he never really worked again. Helen Thomas, the whole interview I did with her that got so much attention was because she made a comment that was pro-Palestinian.
He would also point to things like that where he would be like, hey, if you make any negative comments about Jews, your career is just over. And he would just point to that and be like, see, the Jews are obviously pulling the strings.
But see, I don't know. See, even with Helen Thomas, who I liked, I'm not... She made that comment that you can't speak out against Jewish people in America and survive, that it's the third rail. And, there is an anti-defamation league that is essentially protecting Jewish rights. But I don't know if that's true or not, because I think it's more of the comment, and that's why this shocks me from Bernie Moreno. The Helen Thomas thing happened, I think, in 2009, if I remember right. That's not ancient history. She got fired, they took her awards away. I mean, she was in a bubble for the rest of her life. But now you can be a senator in the United States Senate and make a comment like that and not even skip a beat, not even have to apologize.
Well, I mean...
Look at our administration.
Netanyahu did come to the United States Senate and call it a cesspool of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, but he's not calling Netanyahu a name. He's calling Chuck Schumer a Führer.
Yeah.
You can say Netanyahu's not a nice name. And there were a lot of things that he could have called Schumer there that would have made more sense. Like, if you wanted to call him a dictator.
Anything but Führer. Which is very...
A man who's just written a book on anti-Semitism and all that. I don't understand any of that. Anyway, President Donald Trump's White House intends to appeal a judge's ruling to lift access restrictions to the Associated Press, which were imposed after the news agency continued referring to the Gulf of Mexico in its coverage, a court filing announced showed Wednesday. The U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden on Tuesday ordered the White House to allow AP journalists to attend events open to the press in the Oval Office and on Air Force One, as well as larger spaces in the White House, while its lawsuit moves forward. McFadden found Trump's White House retaliated against the AP over its editorial choices violating protections of free speech under the U.S. Constitution. He put his order on hold until Sunday to give the White House time to appeal. So there you go. The AP gets back in for a minute, Mary Ellen. Is free speech safe?
I don't know.
Glenn, what do you think?
I think that the free speech is not safe right now because they get away with lambasting an organization just for saying what they thought. I don't know. I hate the way we are right now.
This is where we are, and we'll continue to be on these stories as time goes along, and we'll all be here together, Glenn and Mary Ellen and Matt and I. It's been an interesting episode, and we hope maybe you're having some Cracker Jacks and peanuts and Stewart's root beer and whatever you're having wherever you are, and enjoying the ball game as the world goes by. For Glenn and the sign, Matt and Mary Ellen Withrow, 40th President of the United States, Scott Spears heading for the dugout.